So today we had a big double red oak or a codominant stem. Codominant stems where a trunk breaks into two, like instead of having one central stem. And this guy here broke kind of low. And when I was making my final cut down by the stump, you could see I felt the saw just eat right through, but it was all rotted in there, right in the middle of that crotch. So they were definitely going to fail. Now, sometimes we can put a cable to hold those two, you know, so they don't split out like this. But the problem is they were out away from each other, but they were leaning over the hill right over the house. So even if I tied the two sides, they're both leaning over the house. So it was a massive amount of risk they had. You know, they like being up here in the woods, but they don't like that risk over the house. So it was nice to see that I was right about how bad it was there was no evidence from the outside, but I had a feeling. And once we got down in there, just complete rot and separation. So on this job, we're up high on a hill, which I could probably get the bucket truck up, but the whole flat on the other side of the yard I'd have to come across is leach field. And then the septic was right under the tree. So today we chewed the hill up a little bit, but it's a spot that doesn't get much sun almost at all, and it's all moss, and the logs had to come through that spot because it was the best part on the hill to come through. So sometimes it's unavoidable. I spoke with the client yesterday and they weren't sure if it was too wet. I came up at 6:30 this morning and it wasn't overly it was pretty dry, but my feeling was almost every time we work on this hill, we you could tell we were there, you know. So I don't think it was going to be any worse, you know. I think it would have looked like this if it was dry or not, because as soon as you start dragging trees across moss, it just comes off with it. So it's a little bit muddy, but it's not bad. They'll be all right. Now there's more sun, they can get maybe a better lawn in here. So there was enough talented guys that two of us could go up. I didn't want to stick Steve with all that climbing, nor did I want to have to do all of it. So we each took a side. And actually there's a big stump over here where maybe a year and a half ago, we did another huge codominant stem. It was a central leader for a little ways, and then I don't remember what it broke. Not that high up, it broke into two, higher than this guy, and you could see the crack, and you could see it in the wind. You would see the crack open and close, and we had that talk too, and about the cable and the fact that there was already rot, so they wanted to get rid of the risk, and we actually strapped that one together, and we put a climber on each side. I didn't climb that day. I had two other, Steve and another guy, and they each took a side, but as they went up, they strapped it together and we binded the tree together so that it couldn't separate, and I had them each take, one rig on one side, one rig on the other side, another rig here, another rig there. So we kind of kept the weight distribution, we took the same amount off each side at a time just to be safer. We couldn't put a crane on it. The driveway is way over there and it's like this, and there's no way. The house is just too high and too on top of it. Even with a 150 foot of boom wouldn't do it. You just can't do it. So we couldn't put a crane on it. We had to climb it, but they called the right people, that's for sure. That top lead that I was in was really horizontal, so I was like laying down on it. So I was able to let Steve put my rope kind of high on his side. He couldn't get it. A little higher would have been a little bit better, but we couldn't have gained much more. And there was actually a crotch that was kind of behind me, and maybe on some of the angles it would have seemed like it was over me, but it wasn't really that much over me. Whatever, I laid down and dug my spikes in and adjusted my flip line and sent it.